So we just finished talking to Fritz on what ransomware is, and it's been something that's a trending topic. It's very important to be aware. What are some of the things that you can do to proactively protect your environment besides just the end user training, which I think most companies are doing nowadays. I know for me personally, I've been talking to a lot of people about ransomware. If you don't know, we actually have a technical podcast called The Clickdown, and we just released a 2-part episode on ransomware, on some of the things that you can do to prevent it. So if you haven't checked it out, make sure to check it out on your podcast app of choice.
Right, and like Fritz mentioned in this session, there's a lot of tools at Citrix that can help proactively prevent ransomware attacks from happening. Those are around Citrix Analytics and Citrix Content Collaboration, previously known as ShareFile. And so we've invited Landon here to help us understand how we can help with those.
Welcome, Landon. So I know you work closely in the field with a lot of customers, and I'm sure if it's a trending topic for me, I'm sure it's a very hot and trending topic for you and the customers that you deal with on an everyday basis. So can you tell us just a little bit more about, from a Citrix Analytics and content collaboration perspective, what can we do to proactively protect environments from ransomware attacks?
Thanks, Anna, for the setup. So, from a Citrix Analytics and content collaboration perspective, the alignment is really powerful because it allows us to provide control over the data access as well as the data sources. So, for folks that aren't familiar, the content collaboration platform allows you to store and share files within it directly, but it also provides visibility and connectivity into other data and content repositories from on-premises to other cloud storage solutions. And then Citrix Analytics as a platform provides a lot of visibility and the ability to take actions on various things coming into the platform. The threat landscape that we have for content and some of the telemetry that I was referring to, that content collaboration has, really kind of goes across a few different pillars, from the what of content being accessed, what kind it is, and whether how it's being uploaded and downloaded, where the content's being accessed from. So there's a broad landscape that everybody's concerned about when it comes to the content, and especially in the context of ransomware, where your files might get locked and you don't have access to them. You wish you had version control. You're looking for unauthorized access into your system and then want to be able to protect your data. So it's a very broad landscape. And when you look at some of the built-in features that content collaboration has beyond just the information that it tracks while people are using the platform, there's some built-in integrations with DLP and CASB tools to do additional scans. So if you already have systems within your environment to help with data loss prevention, the platform can actually integrate with it, scan those files, and those are some of the triggers or signals that we're going to talk about through the presentation today that really kind of highlight some of those ransomware or excessive actions around more confidential or protected data. But what I think really gets interesting, and from my side, just from a pure field technology perspective, the analytics platform has become really interesting for me to start to dig into some of these questions that we're getting from customers in the field to help protect themselves, like what is possible. Citrix Analytics for security is one of the solution areas that the analytics platform Citrix has developed supports. There are other ones like performance and usage, but from a security perspective, we're really focused on the entire Citrix portfolio, as well as other other solutions from partners like Microsoft and others, where we can kind of pull in from Azure Active Directory or Active Directory other signals that kind of influence the overall solution. And you'll see there in the middle that we're really focusing our analytics and the information that we provide to administrators around the three key types of analytics that are really kind of most important to administrators right now, be it the applications that their users are using on a daily basis, whether they're published from a virtual context or web and SaaS type applications. Obviously, the user themselves and who they are and where they're coming from, and then the networks that they're accessing from, be it inside the data center or kind of your security perimeter, or outside of it in the context of all of the broader security zero trust type conversations that are going on. So the security platform covers the entire portfolio, gets information from all of them, and kind of presents the singular view of security in this context. Now, we have customers that are using virtual apps and desktops. We have customers that are using our gateway service, the content collaboration service specifically from this conversation. But you'll see that there are all these data sources that we can start to investigate and dig into. And there's a number of these built-in risk indicators that give information around how data specifically is being accessed in this case. So if you think about users uploading or downloading, file names changing, all kinds of details around browsing out to OneDrive for Business, for example, on an excessive basis. These are all different types of events that come into there. And these kind of map to different risk indicators that are in the platform. And you'll kind of see that there's a process that goes on. This is the machine learning and the algorithms, kind of the models behind the scenes that are analyzing all of the data from the users in the platform and ultimately generating a risk score. And what you'll see is that on a per user basis, we start to create these profiles of how users are using the platform. And then this feeds into a cycle of what you can investigate, and it's more focused because you have these targeted risk indicators that deal with specific threats that you might be experiencing, from the logins to the downloads and things like that. And you can start to investigate it. And you can get into a scenario where things are kind of quiet, or you have these projects going on, and you can start to do some threat hunting. And I'll kind of talk about that a little bit further.
And Landon, that's gonna happen right in the background. There's no need for a user to call the help desk to say they think they have a security issue. That's happening 24/7 for administrators to review when they need to.
Correct. Yeah, that's one of the things that we're going to highlight is the fact that this is all autonomous behind the scenes. So the data is going in, the models are running. You kind of predefine. There's these built-in risk indicators that I was talking about that feed into the risk scores. There's also custom risk indicators. So we can actually go into the platform and, using all of the data that's captured, kind of administrators. This isn't the end user like your question, Matt, but the risk indicators can be set up by the administrators, assigned a low, medium, or high, so that it kind of influences the models, because these are custom defined. So you can consider it low risk or a medium risk. And then you can define policies. And these policies can be something simple like send a notification to the user that will let them react to, is this me, is it not me? Did I do this? Did I not do this? To kind of protect the environment. Or you can get to a point after you've analyzed your environment for a while where you actually are taking actions, where you lock a user or you log a user out. And this is all transparent to the end user.
And I think end users are used to this, right? Just even in their normal lives, like credit card companies have been doing this forever,
Right.
where they know exactly what I'm doing, what my habits are. And if I deviate from that, they take action. And before, they would just cancel my credit card. And maybe I am traveling, right? Like maybe it is
Right.
me making this giant purchase, and now I have to go through all these issues. Whereas now, they verify that with me, right? Before taking action, they're like, hey, did you make this huge purchase in Europe? And I can say yes, and then my whole trip isn't ruined. So I think taking that, the users are very used to having that sort of back and forth feedback.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, Anna. And that's one of the things that we've been working on. We're obviously looking for and developing ways to demo and showcase this in creative ways for the customers, and, help them implement it into their environments. So that's the fun part that I've been talking about, just kind of taking away solving customer problems, and everything else is really exploring the platform and exploring ways that we can create this interactiveness. And, the banks had to figure out when's the right time, and people had to get used to interacting with it. So I'm having fun doing a lot of that stuff for part of this project. So The data exfiltration and insider threat or user compromise and ransomware activities are kind of three use cases that I wanted to highlight just from a proactive nature. There's a number of new capabilities within the kind of combined platform in terms of the security analytics having new default risk indicators and new signals coming from content collaboration, and kind of a common access, like I was talking about, whether your browser or workspace app, or whether you're kind of coming in from a virtual desktop. So what this gives you is the ability to leverage the built-in risk indicators, as well as start to play with and create some custom risk indicators that gives you visibility into what's going on. Because as you'll learn playing with any kind of analytics platform that's running models, especially when user behavior is the foundation, is it's going to figure out what's normal for you. So if a user is regularly downloading, it's going to be hard to tell by a human whether that's anomalous or not. So an algorithm that can kind of track all of the copies and downloads and shares and logins and all of these pieces are going to create a much more accurate model typically, or it's going to be a much more prescriptive, likely something wrong. But at the same time, you may not see a lot of those because most people are typically doing the right thing or doing good things. It's when bad things happen that those types of indicators come. The three use cases, I'll kind of jump into data exfiltration as the first one. Really focuses around the integrations that I mentioned at the beginning with DLP and CASB. We have specific risk indicators in the platform that are based on the feedback from the DLP or the CASB solution, that will basically prompt for the higher permission, the more sensitive files, and it'll feed some information into the analytics platform. It'll obviously insert into a user's timeline, affecting their score, and you can create those policies and actions that I was talking about to do something within the environment, whether it's the putting them on a watch list so the administrators keep an eye on it, or sending them that notification to see if that was them or not. Likewise, the file sharing, which is more the core content collaboration platform, is where you can create those share links, and send them out to colleagues or external partners that you're working with. And we have the same type of visibility into those, which might generate a slightly different risk indicator, but it's along the same lines of keeping track of anything that you are using the platform to share with others so that you can see what's normal sharing and what's not normal sharing in terms of the context of that user. This is the fun one to play with because we can go in and set policies for how big the files are and not, so you can start to see like how are people sharing files within our environment and kind of generate reports and things like that. So
that's powerful. That's powerful. And then I guess in the absence of that, if there's a breach, a company could go for weeks or months having data exfiltrated and not knowing it's happening. But one of the scarier things, right? You don't know that it's happening, and this kind of gives you that visibility.
Exactly. Yeah, that's one of the biggest values that I'm seeing from the Citrix Analytics platform is the attempt to do some of the triage for you. User account compromise is another one that is built in and is more focused around the login failures. So these risk indicators have more to do with logins from different locations in the US, outside the US really quickly, or a user that has spent the last 6 months in the US from the software's perspective that's all of a sudden logging in from Europe or logging in from Asia or something like that, where they potentially could be traveling. It's similar to, Anna, your example with the banks and everything. You're on a trip. This is legitimate. I'm going to the office in London. So it is legitimate, but from the profile perspective, it may not be. So these indicators come in. It's something that you can investigate. It's something that you can determine based on how much travel you have and whether this is an executive user that travels more than someone that works out of an office in New York and should really never be accessing work things from outside of the US, even when they're on travel, because they're going to be on PTO. The last one, the ransomware ones, I've kind of talked about a little bit already as far as the DLP side of things. But the ransomware activity risk indicators focus around the file names being updated, things like that. With ransomware, a lot of times the encryption, the file doesn't change, it still sits there. It's just the timestamps changed or the file size has changed and things like that. So the file name stays the same, but its size is different. So weird things going on to the data that makes it seem like something could be happening from a malware or some other piece of software that's unplanned. And then the obvious other indicators are files coming in and out of the environment, like we were talking about in the data exfiltration scenario. So these are both different ways of kind of looking at and capturing some of the different scenarios. And I've really been talking about the threat hunting thing a little bit. And I guess that's what's top of mind for me, because I've been really active kind of investigating and exploring some of these with customers, is the fact that within the platform, there's this self-service search that you can start to drill down into and see what the different types of events are. And that's what I was talking about. There's like downloads, uploads, just the login. There's browsing out to the connectors that content collaboration supports. And then you can actually even create similarly reports that are scheduled to run on a regular basis that could actually just become a part of your standard operating procedure from a security perspective. So the threat hunting is really fun and kind of interesting to get into when you start seeing the data across an entire platform. So I think that's probably a good stopping point from any kind of content and everything. Thought I'd go ahead and switch over to a demo. Okay, so we're over here at the Citrix Analytics dashboard. It's pretty interesting. You'll see at first the categorization of who your high, medium, and low risk users are. You can click into them and get some specifics. They're summarized here for kind of the top offenders that you can look to investigate. And like we've talked about, the platform pulls from more than content collaboration. So you actually have summaries of access that pull from our gateway service or other pieces of the puzzle. So this is going to give you the full view of the environment. One of the things that I wanted to show kind of first, just to give you an idea, is actually an individual user. This is a lot of the playing with what can I do, what kind of triggers can we create, how does it affect the score. You'll see that I was at 100, so I'm kind of like a very threatening user within the environment. And I think that from a security operations perspective, I might look kind of bad if you were to come in and kind of see all of the types of access. Now, I've obviously created this scenario by creating custom risk indicators and policies to take these types of actions to kind of showcase what's possible. But really, if I click on one of these and drill into it, you'll see that I'm accessing what has been deemed dangerous websites in this case, or in some of the other ones, specific to the content collaboration, we've created a custom risk indicator. In this case, something fairly straightforward for us to actually trigger is to go and download 10 megs 3 different times within an hour, because the risk score decays over time. So if a user is not doing this, if it's a one-time thing, that score will kind of go back down. So if it was determined that there was no issue, or if I responded to some of these request to end user response, it would adjust that score and kind of change the way that it happens. So this is that security timeline specific to my user behavior and my profile. And then the last piece real quick before we kind of wrap things up is really the self-service search, where you can start to come into and further explore and create your searches and your reports. And if we look at the content collaboration side of things, you can kind of immediately see a bunch of different people logging into the environment and downloading a number of different files. You'll see that we can kind of expand things. You can actually limit the queries, and this is where I'm talking about. You can change the file size, download it if it's not an employee. So if someone from outside the company is downloading things for client-user relationships that content collaboration supports, all of that information can be tracked as part of the searches and everything. So wanted to give a quick snapshot of this, and really the teaser would be to follow up with your account teams or someone at Citrix that you work with, because we can come in and show this for you and give you run-throughs of how this solution, these risk indicators and policies could be implemented in your environment, or help you explore what's most appropriate for your environment.
This has been awesome, Landon. We really appreciate it. I always love a good live demo, and this has been awesome that you were able to actually show this, and how it can help a lot of our customers out there. So thanks for stopping by.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Landon.
Appreciate it.
Happy
Take care,
threat
Matt.
hunting.
Thank you.